What's happening, folks? We're just going to record my weekly reflection video. Just discuss the areas I'd marked out of as areas of interest, the sort of price action in and around those. Obviously, my performance for the week. Um, and yeah, that's about it. So last week I traded twice. Traded on the 25th and on the 26th, which was Tuesday and Wednesday. Two trades taken. Two winning trades, and a percentage gain for the week of 1.76%, and an analysis gain would have been 2%. So what that tells me is I closed one trade early and it went on to hit target. So pretty straightforward week for me, a pretty easy week. Price really seemed to react well at the structure points, at the areas I found where I was interested in buying and selling. There was a lot of things that made sense, and there was a lot of easy opportunities. Just waiting for price to either fail to continue, and break down, or fail to break down and form support to continue up. I will just go through the whole week based on the 1 hour chart after, and just kind of see, because there was a lot of opportunities last week that I don't want to say I missed, but reflecting back on the whole week, it was definitely I could have capitalized on a lot more in terms of opportunity and price movement, relative to structure and clean areas and things like that. So I mean, coming out with two trades taken and two wins is brilliant. I'm super pleased. But just reflecting back based on structure, there was definitely some improvements there. So first and foremost, I'm just going to talk about the two trades I took. I'll just skip through to Wednesday, and then again, like I said, I can just recap back on the whole week and just talk about structure points and that sort of stuff. So this is Wednesday. Let me just go back one day to Tuesday. So I took a sell at around 12:30 on the Wednesday. And this is Tuesday. So let me just skip through. Okay. So hold on, let me see. Tuesday, or sorry, let me go back a day. I took a sell on Tuesday, 25th. And then the following trade was on the 26th, so I've actually went forward too far. So this was structure on Monday. Yeah. So Monday, then this is the open on Tuesday, and then the first candle here before the session candle. So I took my sell at like close to 1:30. Sorry, 12:30. Apologies. So I'm just going to kind of skip through price action a few hours here. 11, 10 to 11. Yeah. So here we are here. So if I just skip back from a session perspective, we have a mixed session bias. So I sort of had these areas marked up between here, between this support zone and this resistance zone. I wasn't so fond of trading in here. And of course, when we started to break below here, this is where I got involved in an opportunity to sell down. From a session perspective on the 1 hour chart, I would have been trading from here. This would have been my session candle open in London, and I feel like it's a bit difficult to trade in here based on the 1 hour and the 30-minute. But there definitely was some options in there. I was just more comfortable of waiting to get to an area that had marked up before, because although this candle from 5 to 6, price is trending up, you have a support here, we then fail to continue and we break below. 4 hour candle opens and we push down. Price is then trading that previous support and rejection area. So you know, I'm not comfortable trading into that. We then get a push up and then we break down with volume. Just on the 1 hour chart, you know, the only way I feel like I could have maybe got involved in this opportunity on the day would have been maybe here. And the reason I say that is because I can see this momentum building. Looking at this on the 15-minute chart, like it's massive. It's just one big candle. It's just volume. There's clear volume in the market. So I could have potentially got involved in that, but again, I wasn't so comfortable trading in and around here. Based on the rejections here, but of course with volume, you know, volume doesn't really respect levels majority of the time. So from an improvement standpoint, I think that's definitely how I could have got involved in a trade in my session, is understanding that price is failing to continue and it's breaking below at a time where there is volume. So that could have been an option to get into a position, you know, maybe have a trade like that or trade the structure. Who knows? But that's definitely an option in the session. But this is where my trade came below here. And let me just bring on the option here, short position. And if I just look at the 1 hour, this is how we were looking. And let me just check my spreadsheet to see what time. So yeah, I took this based off the 1 hour chart. So based on my weekly outlook, I've identified here for sells, simply just to play the range from the resistance down to the support. And at the time, sort of reasoning behind this trade was prices and momentum. So we have a big bearish candle, we have a pause, failed to continue up, break down again, momentum. So my idea was the exact same thing. We have momentum, we have a pause, this candle pulls back the previous structure support, and then this candle, if we're going to continue bullish after forming a support, price essentially should respect the support and continue up, but breaks down. So as it started breaking below 4-hour resistance, the 4-hour zone, below the level I marked up my weekly outlook, we're in momentum. Looking at the structure on the 30-minute, we've clearly forming lower resistances. There's 30 minutes left off the 1-hour candle. So when this 30-minute closed, I was looking at the 1-hour chart and we're like, right, this looks nice. So I entered a sell. Next 30 minutes of the 1 hour was this candle, and then that's how the 1 hour closed. Right, so that's how the 1 hour closed. So we close within the zone, happy days. I've got this 4-hour resistance as an area for price to respect. I've also got this 1-hour support in here. There's also support or structure in here. So I've got quite a few barriers in my way, which I like. And the reason why my stop loss is up here is because when I took my short and I was getting involved here, I just put my target to this, and I just says where gives me a 1-to-1, where gives me 1-to-1 risk reward. I just wanted a 1-to-1, you know, that's fine. So that's why my stops here, because it's just based on target and a 1-to-1 based on the target. You know, I could have, from an improvement standpoint, I could have placed it below the candle or above the candle, which would have given me an increased risk reward. You know, but I think as well as that, from a management perspective, if we're breaking back above here and it's not looking too great, then I'm still losing less, so I could afford to have it here. But I was happy with a bit of a wider stop. I'm still getting good risk reward. Next candle. Basically, what happens is price opens, and I was actually out walking the dog at lunchtime, and I sort of had an alert set at this support, like this. And I said to myself, do you know what? I understand the next hour is going to open. There is a potential chance that because we're in momentum, we can just continue down, or there is a chance we can pull back the previous structure, which is the support or the resistance. So I had a array marked up here as an alert, or just to see what price does. And basically my plan was, well, if we start to hold like structure above or maybe push really aggressively to the upside beyond this, we're above 4-hour support, we're above 1 hour, or sorry, we're above 4-hour resistance. price should then be above 1 hour support. We're also above this structure. Doesn't really look good from a seller's perspective. So when that alert went off, I just kind of watched it on my phone as I was walking the dog. And I was just paying attention to how price was reacting, what was it doing, how aggressively it was moving. And as you can see, as you go down the time frames, price doesn't really, it still respects structure. This is the 1 hour support. It doesn't even close above. Looking at this as well on this time frame, price does form a support, right, which probably isn't the best sign because I'm looking this for continuation to the downside. However, the candle closes below the 4 hour resistance, closes below the 30-minute support. Bit of a rejection, quick there. Said to myself, you know what? Looking at when this actually tapped into this area, it was 10 past. Like, right, what does the next candles do? That builds to 15, that builds to 30. We can clearly see that we don't even break the high of that candle that nicely set the alert off. That being a lower time frame resistance on that time frame wouldn't be a good sign to see that broken. So I was content to just remain in the trade. At the end of the day, looking at where like exiting say above here or anywhere in here, it's well below losing 0.5%. So I'm comfortable sitting in drawdown and that sort of stuff. Like especially if I've got like a wide enough gap. So I just sat and watched and let price do its thing. What was nice, a 30-minute then closed below. And of course this was just the wick creation of the new 1 hour, because then the second half of the RD candle opened and boom, price tanked to the downside, which just looks like that on the 1 hour. And I believe it was 22 was when the volume kicked in here. So again, this is price just creating a new low, pulling back the previous structure to find resistance to continue on with the overall trend, the momentum, the downside. So volume kicked in, hit that trade, hit that target, sorry, and that was that trade. Now from an improvement standpoint on this, one thing I failed to recognize, and although I could say we're in momentum, there's more downside likely, you still don't know that that's going to come. Because I have these zones for a reason, because they're being respected. But I think what happens next clearly shows that I maybe could have understood what price was doing and that it was in momentum, and maybe look to capitalize on the continuation of that momentum. And the thing that stands out to me the most is from a clean traffic area. It's like I was targeting this support, which is sort of like this support as well. And when we actually get below this support, there's a big clean candle here. There's another big clean candle here. So after seeing this candle push in momentum very quickly, these big nice clean candles, I think, well, from an improvement standpoint, I think, well, I could have said to myself, well, do you know what? Let's maybe see if price does continue. Or I could have maybe even targeted down here and then just made a decision to act depending on if we didn't get here by volume. Obviously the key here is volume was present. If volume wasn't present and we trickle down, there's a higher probability that price would have reacted here at some point. But because we're in volume, it just tanks, and I obviously don't know that that's going to come. However, from an improvement standpoint, I think I could have had maybe an improved stop, but I also could have understood what price was doing. Look left and seen there's clean traffic here. If we break here, what is the likelihood that we'll get down to here in volume, in momentum? So I think there's areas to improve there from understanding what I can actually see on the chart with my eyes live and capitalize on what could be, as well as being sensible if I don't see what I want to see happen. This price could just come down a little bit here per se, and then maybe start to react and push back up, then I can just make the decision to just close. I'm still closing out roughly where I would have been exiting anyway, but I'm also giving myself that option to maybe capitalize on the volume, but it's all based on seeing the volume. I can actually see it coming in. So that would be an improvement on that. So that was that trade. Then the next trade was a trade I took following day, and this was a buy. This was a very easy option for me, and I actually took this trade based on the 4-hour chart. And I took this trade at 20 past 6 in the morning. So very early into my session, I took this trade, and the reason I took this trade was because this is what I seen. So I came to the chart and was like, right, where are we? Right, prices pushed down heavy momentum. This candle's pushing momentum, but failed to close below 4-hour resistance, which is holding all this price up. Next candle forms a support, sparks a low, breaks a high. Next candle breaks a low, trading within the previous high. But what I'm more so paying attention to is the rejection wick. It's like we're in heavy momentum, 4 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours of failure to continue down. So for me, this was like very simple, because I'm buying at 4-hour support. I look left and I see, well, what happened when we were in this position? Again, we moved heavy to the downside. We formed a support above the resistance. We went up. We pushed down, formed a support. What happens next? Price goes up. So that was a very easy option for me to identify based on the 4-hour chart alone. If I went down to the 1 hour, I look at this and I might say, yes, this has formed a support. This has then also formed a higher support. So prices then change in structure doing this maybe. But if I was buying this on the 1 hour, you might say, well, you're buying basically right at resistance. You've sort of got this resistance zone here on the 1 hour, which is holding all this below it. You then got this here, which is sort of like the range low. You then got the mid-range support, mid-range resistance. You might say, well, if you're buying here, what are you going to target? Are you going to target this? Are you going to target this? Where's your stop going to go? Are you going to target in the zone? So for me, I found that the lower the time frames I went, the more complicated it actually got. I'm trying to keep things as simple as possible. We form a support, a previous structure support. We fail to continue down. We have rejection wicks. We're breaking up. Very easy to just buy on the break of the high and put your stop loss below the support. I can use this support as an area to manage. I could also use this resistance as an area to manage. And for me, I want to give price the longest possible amount of time for this trade to play out, because where I'm buying from, there's every chance price just stalls about in here, fails to break, and then it pushes. Who knows? But below this 4-hour resistance was most likely going to be the area I was going to manage my position. Now I understand this is a whole support zone, so price could come down as far as here, or even here like it did the day before, to then push to the upside. But I want to see price push this way, not this way. So if it comes down here, I'm maybe going to manage, and then I'm maybe going to re-enter if I need to. But that trade was taken based on the 4-hour chart very early in the session. And I just targeted the next, well, I targeted this sort of structure here, this support but also resistance, because when I look left, what structure is price playing in? For me, price is playing in this structure between this 4-hour support and this 4-hour resistance and support. So I was just targeting the top of this range, because this is a 4-hour support resistance. Yes, this has moved cleanly through it. This has moved cleanly. What's the chances? What I also looked was, well, what candle is left? We have this nice candle here. So can I just mirror this candle and be in and out, 1-to-1, be done and dusted? And that's what I done. Now, This was the trade I actually closed out for 0.76%. And the reason for that was because I actually had yeah, I closed out here. Price come up to like almost 1 to 1, right? It come up to like there and then started to pull back. And this was before the 1 hour open was due to open at London here. So or no, sorry, it was before the last 15-minute candle. It was before the last 15-minute candle of London open. So you can clearly see where price pushed up. It pushed up to here and almost hit the target, and then it started to come back. So I just closed it there and was like, you know what? What's to say this next 15-minute candle doesn't open and push down or whatever? I was like, for the sake of an extra 0.24, I'm already at 0.74 or 76. I'll just take it. Kind of similar to the previous day when I looked to see the downside and I could have capitalized on this. Like, essentially, my weekly target for the previous week, was actually playing this range up to here. When I go back to this opportunity, this was literally the beginning of the move to where we ended up here. You look at this and you see, as soon as we can close within this structure point, within this zone, price remains within. Yes, it rejects down, but it doesn't hold structure below. You then form a nice higher support here. Boom, upside. Again, pull down, respect the structure point, upside. Close above, pull back down the test. Then we get volume. And yeah, that's really the end of that. So from an improvement standpoint on this position, it's a little bit difficult to say, oh, I could have held it because look what came after. But at the end of the day, like, I never knew that was going to come. It could have maybe went, you know what? Play the range. You're buying from range support. Where's the highs? The highs are up here. You could have maybe played that, but that would have meant holding for multiple days and that sort of stuff. And that wasn't the really plan or the idea. This is just obviously hindsight and that sort of stuff. But they were my only 2 trades of the week. Just those 2 trades. Now, looking at price on a 1 hour chart and looking at all the areas I had marked out. So buys above here made sense. You formed a support here. Broke the high, but then didn't continue up. So I'm just what I'm basically just doing here is like, well, I'm going like, this is where I say buys made sense above. Did actually buys come above this level or did it not? So based on my 4 hour chart, I was thinking, well, if we can hold support above here of the structure, more upside. So we did pull down, form support, but we didn't continue. Sales below made sense below here. I was able to capture those. And this is the thing as well, when I was talking about capturing this potentially, I'd put on my weekly outlook that sales made sense below here. So if I'm in this trade and I can see momentum, because I'd already planned to take sales below here, or not take sales, but mark up an area where it makes sense to sell, that could have been another reason why I could have held position, because I'd already identified it makes sense to sell below there. So this is a nice clean candle, big candle. It closes below port and the zone. You could even just take sales on that close, go above the candle that closes below, and just target the bottom of the range or structure. Kind of simple in momentum. Where the buys make sense from here, I was able to capture these buys. And then again here, buys above made sense here. Kind of really messy in here, but I think the prime buys in this area would have came here. There's buys here, but this is during Asian session. I'm sleeping at this time. But I think the fact that we're failing to continue, then pull down, fail to continue again. There's what, 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours of failure to continue down, closing above 4-hour structure, closing above 4-hour support zone, closing inside this range after forming higher support from this previous support structure. These very easy buys in my opinion. Looking at that as like, just targeting the most recent structure left or target resistance on the 4-hour. Then again, structure above here, buys above. Clearly see that we form resistance here, pull back, higher support, that offered upside. We sort of pull back to the support again, closed above, offered more upside, and then of course there was quite a lot of news on Friday, which was the catalyst for the massive move up. But I just feel like the sort of structure points I marked up last week or the week before, for areas to trade in and around, price sort of did form options in and around those levels, and it did respect structure quite well based on what was left. Did get a little bit messy in there, but yeah, pretty straightforward on the first half of the week. Kind of clean movement, and then it just gets really rangy. So that is my weekly reflection. 2 trades taken, 2 wins. Very easy and sort of simple options. I'm just trying to make things really as simple as possible. Using a 1-hour chart for sort of mainly for entries alongside the 30-minute. Oh yeah, the last area buys above here was more so like, well, this is a weekly resistance. If we can hold structure above, we can continue upside. Looking at the session on Friday, could have potentially got in and around there. Maybe, yeah. Even on the 30-minute chart, I think we're in momentum then. Little pause, continuation, makes sense. Well, happy enough with how last week was. There's clearly a lot of room for to capture more. Not that I need more or not, but it's kind of just good to see from a structure perspective how you can trade the ranges, even though they're massive, because prices really respect and structure and areas within quite well. Hopefully we can kind of see that a little bit more this week, maybe. But after such heavy push up, I wouldn't be surprised to see some range and that sort of stuff. But yeah, that's sort of my weekly reflection. 2 trades taken. So yeah, I'll get this up. Quite a long one, but for only 2 trades taken, I've probably rambled on a good bit. But yeah,